So you have just released your 17th CD, Modern Art, and it has been doing very well. It is number 6 on Billboard and number 10 on smoothjazz.com. Please tell us about your new CD.
Okay, well, that's great that you were counting, because it's always hard for me to know which number of CD that it is. So it's really fun that we were able to put this out. We have a lot of great instrumentation. For example, we have Billy playing some accordion, which was wonderful.
Oh.
And we have Rico, our new bass player, who we're featuring. So it was a lot of fun making this album.
Why did you name it Modern Art?
Well, I've become interested. I've reignited my passion for art. You know, there's something that I was into as a young kid. Both of my grandparents were oil painters by profession. So we were always around art our whole lives as kids. And of course my dad was into music and art and all these other things. So as I became interested in guitar as a teenager, I kind of, gradually went away from my studies in art, and I've discovered them over the past 4 or 5 years.
There is something special about the way Jeff Kashua blend. We noticed that Jeff has returned.
It's funny, he came back for our 20th anniversary and we had such a blast. It was so fun that he stuck around, and it's obvious that he's having a great time too. But it's funny you mentioned that, because from the moment that he took his saxophone out on that tour, I just realized what a vintage classic sound kind of that it was for the Rippingtons to have him back.
So you wrote every song on this CD?
No, I write some with my wife now. She's a great songwriter. She writes pop songs in Spanish. She's a lyricist and a great melody writer. So a couple of times we'll collaborate. And the other songs I wrote myself.
Okay. Why did you decide to eliminate percussion in this CD? You don't have percussion.
I'll tell you, we did a gig in the Canary Islands a couple of years ago, and it was the first time we had gone as a 5-piece band. And I just noticed that the energy was so elevated with that. I loved it. It was a whole different kind of a thing, and I felt like maybe as a composer, to change the instrumentation after 20 years would be a good thing for me. Anything that you can do to change things is fresh. And I think it's taken Dave to a new height as a drummer to incorporate all the percussion that otherwise, you wouldn't hear. So every year I see him incorporating more and more of it. It's really fun.
So do you have a favorite song?
A favorite song? I do have a favorite song. In fact, we're going to play it today. It's going to be in our set list, but I don't tell the name of it. But I will say it includes my favorite song, and it's clearly my favorite song that I've written.
Is this your favorite song of all time? You're saying?
That I've written,
of everything, or just on this CD?
Oh no, of all time.
And you're not going to tell me what it is?
No.
So you have been successful in producing one incredible CD after another with fresh material each time. How do you manage to do that?
People ask me all the time. I do a lot of interviews, and that seems to be one of the most frequent questions. And the answer is, I always reinvent the way that I write music. I don't just sit down and do it the same way. I approach it completely differently. I try to work with different people. I approach the people, like even in the band, differently. Like sometimes they'll say, we really want to play this album totally live together in the studio. We'll do that sometimes, or I'll get a couple of them together to play, or I'll give them a sketch and I'll say, okay, we're going to fill this thing out differently, or I'll tell them I haven't decided on the form, or I'll even say, play it exactly the way I wrote it, but it's always different. I try not to do the same things.
So is this one reason that you have changed personnel over the years?
Well, when we invented the Rippingtons, when it began, the business model was that it would always have changing personnel. And it was important that I felt we would be able to do that. I felt like that, we'd have more chance at longevity, and also it would keep it more interesting for me as a producer and as a songwriter to not be locked into one kind of a thing. I thought that maybe over time things would be more interesting if they were able to change and to just morph naturally. And that's kind of really how it's turned out. It's been a very natural process.
The ever-present Cat has changed his image again. He seems to evolve with each CD. How did the idea of the Cat come about, and how do you decide where he's evolving to?
It's funny because our relationship with Bill Mayer, the artist of the Cat, has also evolved. And it's funny, over the years I've been very specific to Bill about what to draw. I would say I want him doing this, or he'll be in a museum as a cat burglar. And Bill, it seems like it's been good for him, easy for him to take that direction. On this album, Modern Art, was different. I said, okay, this is modern art, and I want you to do whatever you can think of. And it was like outer space in a way for him to put the cat into a situation that he had to consider where it would be.
Well, you have 2 high-quality websites. We understand that you are a website designer. How did you get involved in this, and do you design and build your own websites?
Well, I've gotten much more involved in web design, and it started about 10 years ago when I spent a pile of money on a website to somebody else, and it never happened. And I thought, I never want that to happen again. So I got lucky. I met somebody that had a design company. It was actually an ad agency, and he took me under his wing, and he just introduced me. And this was 10 years ago, so obviously the web was nothing like it was now. He just kind of introduced me to the nuts and bolts of website design. And over the years, I remember even 10 years ago, I got into Flash design. And then I got into the actual action script writing and then code writing. And that's been fascinating because as I've evolved as a visual artist and really improving my skills, I've also evolved my code writing skills. And now I see, with Web 2.0, it's just been a fascinating kind of a juxtaposition.
So your illustrations are really intricate and very beautiful. Have you painted since you were young? You mentioned before you were into drawing.
Most of my things are now digital. I haven't worked in artistic medium so much as I do in the digital format, and that's primarily because I do so much web work. But no, I'll definitely be getting into more like canvas type painting and all these type of things in the future.
So your illustrations are using Adobe Illustrator, you're saying?
Yeah, a lot of Illustrator, some Photoshop, other programs similar to those, yeah.
Oh, I see, and now you're getting
And then,
paint.
you print them in Giglé format onto canvas. Mm-hmm. And yeah, oh no, I'm definitely interested. I love abstract art and texture and canvas. All of it's fabulous.
So you're also a photographer. When did you start taking pictures?
That's a funny thing. It's just something that I kind of did strictly as a hobby. Of course, I never wanted to be a photographer, but it's funny, my relationship with all the photographers I've worked through the years, I've always kind of picked their brain and all the photo shoots we've done, and I've gotten to be friends with some photographers. And I don't know how I picked it up, but we go to Europe a lot. My wife and I travel all over the world, and I just started taking a camera and then really loving some of the photos I took, and I thought, well, I want to get a better camera, and I just decided, well, I'll get a great camera, a really good one and some great lenses, and I'll learn about it. It's just a hobby, it's a fun thing. And I realized what a gift it is to be able to capture something like that on film, and it's just another challenge.
So what kind of a camera do you have?
I have a Canon 1DS Mark II that is my workhorse camera.
You grew up in Nashville.
I did.
We understand that your father helped introduce you to the music industry. Can you tell us about this?
Sure. It was probably a pivotal time in my life. I was about 10 years old, and my dad was interested in playing classical guitar. So he was taking lessons with a studio player named John Pell. And John Pell introduced us to all the studio guys that were making the records for all the country artists. And there was a gang of about maybe 10 of them. And these are the guys that everybody hired in town, back in the 70s. So as a 10-year-old, I'd go and I'd sit behind the glass and I'd watch them do takes, and they would let me actually walk into the control room, into the studio, and I'd just bug the drummer, like, hey, what are you doing? What are you using for the sticks? And I'd bug them, and then they didn't mind. It was amazing. So they actually took me under their wing, and by the time I was 14, I was playing on sessions with them. It was wonderful. So I always loved the studio aspect of things. I was very comfortable with it, and I was around multi-track recording, since I was 10 years old.